In the first episode, we became familiar with many names and titles of Abdu'l Baha. In this second episode, I would like to share with you all stories and related information about one of the titles of Abdu'l Baha. During the lifetime of Baha'u'llah, if you had asked any Baha'i if they knew who Abdu'l Baha was, they would probably not know what you're talking about. No one really knew him by that title at that time. This name was adopted by Abdu'l Baha only after the ascension of Baha'u'llah. During the lifetime of Baha'u'llah, everyone knew Abdu'l Baha as Agha, that is, the Master. Even Baha'u'llah himself addressed Abdu'l Baha as Agha. Baha'u'llah also ensured that everyone else addressed Abdu'l Baha as Agha. One day, as Baha'u'llah was roaming in a garden on the outskirts of Baghdad, someone referred to a certain individual as Agha. On hearing this, Baha'u'llah was heard saying with a commanding voice, "Who is Agha? There is only one Agha, and he is the most great branch." We of course know that the most great branch refers to Abdu'l Baha. On another occasion, someone addressed Mirza Muhammad Ali, the half-brother of Abdu'l Baha, as Agha, whereupon Baha'u'llah admonished him, saying, "There is only one and only one Agha, and he is the most great branch. Others should be addressed by their names." The title Agha, or the Master, reminds me of Baha'u'llah's love for Abdu'l Baha. Certainly Abdu'l Baha's love for Baha'u'llah is beyond our comprehension. When Baha'u'llah was imprisoned in the dungeon of Siyah-Chal, through the kindness of one of the prison officials who was friendly towards Baha'u'llah, Abdu'l Baha, then only 9 years of age, was taken one day to visit his father. He had descended only halfway down the steps when Baha'u'llah caught sight of him and ordered that the child be taken out immediately. He was permitted to wait in the prison yard until noon, when the prisoners were allowed an hour of fresh air. When Abdu'l Baha saw his father, he was in chains and tied to his nephew, Mirza Mahmud. He walked with great difficulty. His beard and hair were unkempt, his neck bruised and swollen from the pressure of the heavy steel collar, and his back was bent with the weight of the chain. On witnessing this sight, Abdu'l Baha fainted and had to be carried home unconscious. There is another incident from the life of Baha'u'llah that we are all familiar with. When Abdu'l Baha was about 10 years old, Baha'u'llah went to the mountains of Kurdistan for 2 years. After Baha'u'llah's departure, Abdu'l Baha fell into great despondency. He would go away by himself, and when sought for, he often found weeping, often falling into such grief that no one could console him. His chief occupation at this time was copying and committing to memory the tablets of the Bab. Time passed, no one heard anything of Baha'u'llah. Finally, one day a message was received from a messenger that Baha'u'llah would be returning home the next day. The other members of the family could not credit the truth of this news. But it seemed to electrify Abdu'l Baha. He minutely questioned and examined the messenger and became very excited. He quite believed that Baha'u'llah would return, even though no one else did. During the night following the next day, Baha'u'llah walked into the house. He was hardly recognizable. His beard and hair were long and matted. He really appeared to be a dervish. This meeting between Abdu'l Baha and Baha'u'llah was the most touching sight to witness. Abdu'l Baha threw himself on the floor before Baha'u'llah and kissed and embraced his feet, weeping and crying, "Why did you leave us? Why did you leave us?" while Baha'u'llah too wept over his son. Abdu'l Baha, the greatest holy leaf and the purest branch, looked upon Baha'u'llah not merely as their father, but as their Lord. And because they had truly recognized his station, they acted at all times as most humble servants at his threshold. Abdu'l Baha always entered the presence of Baha'u'llah with such genuine humility and reverence that no one among his followers could manifest the spirit of lowliness and utter self-effacement as he did. The humility of Abdu'l Baha, as he bowed before his father, or prostrated himself at his feet, or dismounted his steed when he approached the mansion in which Baha'u'llah resided, demonstrated this unique relationship which existed between Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l Baha. When Baha'u'llah was moved to the mansion of Mazra'i and Bahji, Abdu'l Baha stayed in Akka. Whenever Abdu'l Baha went to attain the presence of his father, he dismounted from his horse as he approached the mansion, because he considered it disrespectful for a servant to be riding when he visited his lord. While Abdu'l Baha showed such lowliness and humility, the outpouring love and admiration by Baha'u'llah for his son knew no bounds. His pleasure and joy when Abdu'l Baha visited him at the mansion were evident. So eager was he to receive Abdu'l Baha with marks of honor that he would dispatch a contingent of believers, including his sons, to distant fields outside the mansion as a welcoming party, while he himself would be standing on the balcony to watch him arrive. There were also times when Baha'u'llah missed his most great branch. On several occasions, he even wrote in his own handwriting, asking him in tender and loving language to come and visit him. No pen can describe the true relationship that existed between these two. The outpouring of infinite love and admiration by Baha'u'llah and the manifestation of absolute humility and utter nothingness by Abdu'l Baha surpass our understanding. When Abdu'l Baha was on a visit to Beirut, Baha'u'llah expressed sorrow because of separation from him in the following words: "Praise be to him who had honored the land of Ba, Beirut, through the presence of him round whom all names revolve. All the atoms of the earth have announced unto all created things that from behind the gate of the prison city there hath appeared, and above its horizons there hath shone forth the orb of the beauty of the great, the most mighty branch of God, his ancient and immutable mystery, proceeding on its way to another land. Sorrow thereby hath enveloped the present city, whilst another land rejoiced." Baha'u'llah further states, "Blessed, doubly blessed is the ground which his footsteps have trodden, the eye that hath been cheered by the beauty of his countenance, the ear that had been honored by hearkening to his call, the heart that had tasted the sweetness of his love, the breast that had dilated through his remembrance, the pen that had voiced his praise, the scroll that had borne the testimony of his writings." In the Surah Qusn, Baha'u'llah asks us to thank God for having given us Abdu'l Baha. "Render thanks unto God, O people, for his appearance, for verily he is the most great favor unto you, the most perfect bounty upon you, and through him every mouldering bone is quickened. Whoso turneth towards him hath turned towards God, and whoso turneth away from him hath turned away from my beauty, hath repudiated my proofs, and transgressed against me."